Architects, and welcome back to another RPG Architect tutorial. My name is Bert, and today we are going to be expanding upon our combat mechanics by adding in melee strikes. We are taking this project from a Doom-like to a Skyrim-like, and I say Skyrim with quotation marks, air quotes going on. So let's just get on into it. We're going to open up our database as usual, and we're going to be starting off in entity definitions. Now, if you haven't watched my projections video yet, I really suggest you do that first, and the main reason is because I'm just going to be copying and pasting over the work I did there and reusing it, just like a professional programmer does of copying and pasting code. All right, so we're going to rename this entity. We took our bullet entity, we're going to rename it to sword, and we're going to name the script slash, I guess, interaction is automatic. Check your collider. Yes, you need to, if you copy and paste, you need to just double check your collider, make sure it has something in there. We're just going to do 1 diameter and 0.5 height. That is fine. Make sure that these are set about like that, and then we're going to come to our move entity script, and I need to adjust this because for our bullet we wanted it to step forward and then recycle this movement. So it steps forward and then it steps forward again and again and again and again. It keeps going until it is deleted. We do not want that for a sword. We want it to step forward and then disappear. So take is recycling off, and then we are going to add another script called remove entity, and just click self, and that should do it. So it steps forward and then it removes self, okay? So now we're going to take this entity definition and we're going to apply it to a projection. So come down to our projections, same thing, we're going to copy our bullet script or bullet projection. We're going to rename it sword, and then click entity and change the entity definition to sword, okay? And you keep your rotation. You want your rotation modifier on because if you remember, we saved the camera X, Y, and Z, and that is where the projection is spawned from. And so you want the same thing with the sword. If you're looking around with your mouse, you want the sword slash to happen wherever the camera is facing. All right, makes sense? So now we can apply that. Let's go ahead and set up a virtual key first. There's a couple things we got to do. We're going to do something in user interfaces. We got to do some stuff in virtual keys and in our entity. Let's set up a basic virtual key first, and then we're going to jump back over to user interface. We'll create a new one called melee. Let's create one called equip none. And let's create one called equip right, or equip. Let's do equip sword, and actually let's make one more. We're gonna come back to this. I'm gonna show you at the end. We're gonna do an equip magic. Okay, because we're building out the sword, and then I'm gonna show you that it's the same thing for your multiple weapons. So anyway. If you remember our shoot button, which will now be our magic button, it was the left mouse button, so that will be our character's left hand. We're going to be holding our sword with our right hand, so let's click melee. Let's add a mouse right button. Our mouse right button is now our melee. And now, just to start, just the bare bones essential, when you press the right mouse button, we're going to spawn a projection, and that projection is going to be our sword, and the origin of that projection is going to be our party, and we're going to store that ID on a variable that I've already created called sword ID. Whatever variable you want to store it on, but you store the ID of this projection on a variable, because afterwards when we release, we want to remove the projection, and you choose the unique ID, sword ID. Does that make sense? Okay, we're gonna be adding more into this, but that is just the start of it, okay? I'm also going to click while I'm here, require key release, because I don't want to be able to just hold down my sword button and keep slashing. You may want to, but for my project, I want to have it set to where you have to press the button each time to slash your sword. And yeah, so that's how I'm setting mine up. You do what you want. You are an adult. All right, so now you see I've got these other virtual keys. Before I get into them though, I think really what I should do is set up my user interface. Now you might be wondering, well, why are we doing stuff with user interfaces? This is melee combat. Well, the reason being is because when you have your weapon equipped, you want to see it on screen. And the way we can accomplish this with RPGA is by using user interface overlays. So I'm just going to create a new UI element, set the type to overlay, and then do picture. I'm going to call this sword, and actually I'm going to call this this element sword overlay. We'll do that for the UI. Okay, and then we're going to set our sprite. I have actually uploaded a couple of sheets that I got from the game Hexen. I am using these in a fair use context rather. I am not going to be distributing these in any kind of commercial project or product. Ask your doctor if using other people's assets is right for you. Do not do this if you have heart conditions or are pregnant or anything like that, and viewer discretion is advised. So anyway, I'm just going to be using this. This is my overlay. This is the idle sword sprite. Whatever you're using, your frame width and whatnot will be different values. Anyway, let me just move forward. So I have my sword overlay. This is just for when you're idle, when you just have it equipped. I'm going to put it into place here. I think about 22 should be good. And I'm going to set up a little animation here for when you equip and unequip. Okay, so we have these enter and exit transitions. I'm going to select movement for both of them, and I'm going to edit. Yeah, and so I've already got the values that I want in my mind. My duration, I want it to be about 200 milliseconds, just a quick, like, whoosh, pull up of the sword. And my ending position, I want it to be where it is on screen. So my starting position, this is the sword pulling up on the screen. I'm gonna set this to be 100. So it's gonna start down here, basically, and then it's gonna come up. All right, and then do the same thing with the exit, except for our ending relative Y is going to be 100. Oh, and then I forgot, let me set my duration for exiting as well. I almost didn't do that, so. All right, does that make sense? So we have our overlay that has the idle weapon graphic, and then we have our exit and enter transition set in here as well. Okay, now we can take this. Let's go back over to our virtual keys. Let's jump into our equip sword script, okay? So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna map a key. I wanna have it to be where, like the old school games, where if you hit a number key, you bring up a weapon, and since the sword is gonna be in my right hand, I'm just gonna select 2. So if I press 2, we're gonna equip our sword. Now when we press this, we're gonna set up a conditional. And the condition is going to be, is sword equipped? You see, I actually already have that script made from testing. So I'm going to select that, select a global switch. And if global switch sword equipped is on, then do nothing. Okay? Otherwise, what am I doing? Otherwise, change switch, turn sword equipped on, and open overlay. And we're going to select our sword overlay. We're going to store the ID in this one I already have made called, actually no, not sword ID. We're going to do another one. We're going to call this equipped right. Again, the names of these variables don't matter. However you want to do it to keep it organized in your project, but I'm just going to call mine equipped right. So you could probably do this the other way, that if it's off, then do this stuff up here. This is just how I did it my first run, and it works, so I'm doing it the same way. So if you have all of this, then when you hit the key number 2, you will equip a sword. If you do not, if you just have just this stuff and it's not under conditional, then you can keep hitting 2 and you'll basically keep seeing the sword equip animation. That's what me circling the mouse here signifies. Sorry if it's flashing on the screen. Okay, so there's that. So now let's go to our equip none script, okay? This is much like our equipping sword. We're gonna set a key press. I'm gonna use 0. Oops, I clicked off the thing. I'm gonna use 0. So if I press 0, we're gonna unequip our weapons. And by doing that, we're gonna close equipped right. Close user interface, or user interface ID equipped right. I'm not going to select close all, because if you have stuff like health or you know, HUD items that are also overlays, that will close them too. So just select the unique ID, and then we're going to change our switch back. Change switch. Sword equipped is off. Does it make sense? So once again, you know, we hit 1, checks to see if sword equipped is on. If it is, then it does nothing. If it is off, then we equip our sword with a global switch and we open the overlay. If we hit 0, then we close the sword overlay and we turn sword equipped off. Okay, so now that we have overlay stuff, let's go back to our melee virtual key. And we're going to be using that sword equipped switch again. So let's set up a conditional, because we only want to be doing this melee script if our sword is equipped. So conditional branch, if sword equipped is on, and we hit the right mouse key, then we are going to spawn a projection, right? So this way we can only spawn this sword projection when our sword is equipped, okay? But what we want to, I mean, as is, it's just going to be the sword sitting there. So really, we need to add in some animation, and that's what we're going to do here. So let's go ahead and set up our animation. We're going to resize here. We are going to select as screen preview, because when we call our animation in our script, it is going to be a screen animation. Select graphic, and like I said, I got these swords animation in here. So I'm gonna select my first frame. I think I can make it a little bit bigger. Let's just do 2. Let's start with that. Let's start with normal size. It should be fine. And then I'm just going to put the animation into place. You see I got my preview region. About like that. I'm going to copy and paste this next frame over. And select the next frame. Just adjust it a little bit. About down there, roughly. Copy and paste a frame. Let's change this one to the next frame, and so on and so forth. And I'm just going to get this into position the way it needs to be, and then we will continue. All right, I got my animation set up the way I want. You can use this little play button to, you know, double check your work. You might have to do some fine tuning when you actually get it into your project, whatever you got going on. But set up your animation in here. I also named it sword/anim. So now I can take this, I can head back over to my virtual keys. Let's go into our melee and our conditional branch. So now if we hit the right mouse button, what I want to do is I want to close the user interface, equipped right, So I want to close my idle sword overlay, spawn the projection, play the animation we set up, sword/anim, use as a screen animation, so it just animates on the screen. You don't have to store the ID if you don't want. You might have a situation where you do, but for this I don't need to. So play the animation. I'm going to add a wait command just for pacing. I think about 300 milliseconds should be fine. And then I'm going to reopen up my idle sword overlay, okay? And store that ID in our equipped right, okay? So, as a recap, we created our entity definition of the sword by just reusing our bullet stuff, but when the sword entity definition is called, it steps forward 1 and then it removes itself automatically. We set up a projection for that, referencing this entity definition of sword, and the modifier is rotation, so that wherever you're looking on screen, that's where the sword projection spawns. We created a user interface for our sword idle, for our idle weapon, just to display on screen while we have it equipped, but we're not using it. We set up virtual keys for equipping the sword and removing a sword. So if our sword is not equipped, if our sword is not equipped, then we equip it and we open up that idle overlay by pressing the 2 key. If we press the 0 key, we remove the equipped right overlay and we change the switch to off. And we set up our melee key that if we hit the right mouse key, then it checks to see if we have a sword equipped, and if we do, then it closes our sword idle overlay, it spawns the projection sword, it stores that ID, it plays the slashing animation, we wait for a second just for pacing, and then we open back up our idle sword. And when we release the key, it removes the projection. Makes sense? So let's test it out. We still need to link it up to our enemy, but let's just take a look at it, okay? So walking around, I hit 2, here comes my sword, I right click, there's my animation, bam. Could maybe smooth it out a little bit, but that's not too bad, right? Very cool, but like I said, it does nothing to our enemy yet, so we just got to link this up. Ow, he hit me. So let's jump into our entity definition for our lich. This damage script, if you remember, we have projection bullet. Let's add projection sword. Actually, no, excuse me, this is wrong. Don't do this, because this is needing to get both of them in order for this to trigger. So rather than that, we need to set up an any interaction. And under this, you set 2 conditions: if projection bullet or if projection sword. This is what you would like, because now it's if either of these trigger, then it triggers the damage script for our enemy. Okay, so now let's try it out. Okay, so hit my 2. There we go. 2, 3. Bam, look at that. And I can still shoot. My magic. Got my... Well, I didn't set him up yet, so he won't do nothing. He's susceptible to magic only. Bam. Very cool. It feels very satisfying. It's funny how just an animation like that can really change the feel of the game. Okay, and then I hit my 0 key, do that, and I'm right clicking, and I should have left one of those guys alive. Right click and nothing happens. I don't think I have an enemy to try it on. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that's how you do that. And if I can basically do the same thing for my magic as I did with my equipped sword. So let's do I'm probably just going to skip ahead on this. But we will set up our left mouse to be our magic hand, or our cast spell button, okay? So let me just set this up real quick and then I'll show you. All right, now I got everything set up for my magic, and it was basically the same thing. I've got, let's see, I've got a magic overlay where it's just the hand. I've got a magic cast animation. It looks a little weird in here. I've been having some bugs happen today for me on the animations tab. It works fine, don't worry. Even my sword looks a little janky for some reason, but I think it's because I have a lot of things open or something. I don't know. Locke will see this and figure out what's going on. But anyway, I have my animation. I have my magic hand overlay with the exit and enter transitions. I have my virtual keys set up. I have equip magic, so if I hit the 1 key, then it checks to see if my magic is equipped already, and if it's not, then it equips it. And it saves or opens the magic hand overlay, saves that ID in equipped left. If I shoot spell, it checks to see if I have magic equipped, and if so, then it closes my hand overlay, spawns the projection, plays the magic casting animation, waits for a second, then reopens the overlay. And then I also had to add on my equip none. It checks if I hit that, then I'm going to just remove all equipment, so it closes user interfaces equipped right and equipped left, and it turns the sword and magic equipped switches off. Yeah, so that works there. Let's take a look at it. And now, you know, I got nothing equipped. I hit 1, bam, there's my magic. I can cast it on him, shoot little bullets, little magic shots. I hit 0, it goes away. I can no longer cast the shots. I'm clicking. I hit 2, there's my sword, I can slash it. Very cool. I can hit 1 and have them both up. Oh, I hit somebody through the wall there. I'll have to work on that, but very cool. And then I hit 0 and they both go away. Cool. One more thing I want to point out while we're talking about this is, coming back to my entity definitions, if you set your damage script up like this, the only downside of doing it this way is that whether they get hit with the magic bullet or the sword, either one, it's going to subtract 1 HP with the way this is set up. If you want to set up your enemy to be more susceptible to magic or melee damage, whichever one, we'll come over to this lizard man here. You would want to set up 2 different damage scripts. See, I have one for bullet and I have one for sword on the interactions, and the only difference is that the bullet takes 1 HP off, whereas the sword I set it to 4. And if, in case you don't remember, this guy has 8 HP, so it should take 2 shots from the sword or 8 shots of magic, okay? And so just to show that, here, let me create another lizard man in here. There we go, get my magic and my sword equipped. There we go. Take this guy out. 1, 2, bam, 2 hits, so minus 8 HP. Run back over to this guy. And 1, 2, and he's not dead. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Bam. All right, y'all. Sorry if that one was a little, if I didn't explain that one very well. Hopefully the concepts made sense. You're using overlays to bring up your weapon idle screens here. And you're just closing and opening them, and then, you know, calling the appropriate animation as needed, and spawning projections depending on which one you use. So anyway, that's it for me today. Hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below letting me know how awesome this tutorial is or how much you hated it. Either one is fine. Get out there and make some cool first-person RPG projects, man. I know in October I was doing kind of like a spooky first-person project, but I really like working on this individual project, and I figured by doing it this way, now it's more of an RPG, right? Now we got swords and magic and stuff, so that counts. Anyway, yeah. If you've enjoyed this tutorial and you'd like to support me further, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/bitbybitsound, or you can pick up one of my song packs at bitbybitsound.itch.io. And of course, if you don't have a copy of RPG Architect, grab your copy on Steam. We are still in early access, but 1.0 is right around the corner. So anyway, that's going to be it for me today. As always, you have been amazing, and I have been Bert. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Master Robot.